What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/NuclearRevenge. This story's called, My Dad's Ex-Girlfriend Robs Us and He Gets Even. Hi everyone, I haven't been on Reddit for more than a week, but I had someone say I should tell my story here, so please don't criticize it too much as I am not the best at writing. Okay, for reference, I was a young teen, around 14 or 15. My father had a rough time with women and always seemed to have bad luck with them, until he started dating an old high school friend that we'll just call Susan. She was a cool woman. I was glad my dad found love in his life again. He deserved it. Susan was kind to me and even had 2 kids of her own, one younger and one older than me, but they didn't come around often. My dad dated her off and on for over a year, thinking he was super lucky. But soon, we started having problems that escalated until the breaking point. I'll start from the beginning, and you'll see that I'm not lying when I say that Susan is an evil woman. Susan is a struggling drug addict that my dad knew about and had tried to help her through it, but she was always fighting him on it and had moments of pure rage. I hate when people yelled and fought with each other. I'm kinda emotional and I start getting weepy. I don't know why. Anyway, my dad had a bad accident when he was hunting our woods behind our house. He was coming down and halfway down, he fell and perfectly landed one of his legs on a rock that completely shattered his kneecap. He had to have surgery and go on heavy pain medication to keep him comfortable. 3 weeks and he came home, but needed crutches for months and still had some heavy pain meds. Enter Susan, who was hardly around the hospital during my dad's entire stay. She would end up sneaking my dad's pills when he was asleep and just abuse them all the time. My dad ended up hiding them from her. That was the moment things went downhill. First, she tried to convince me to steal my dad's meds so she could take them, saying that if 2 or 3 go missing, he won't know. I was appalled at what I was hearing. I refused and I thought her behavior was out of line, but my dad still believed she was a good person. Next, I have to admit that I suffer from low self-esteem and emotional anxiety from time to time. It was a while after the pill issue that Susan came and was trying to convince me to run away from my dad because he didn't care about me anymore. I was in a bad time in my life and she succeeded in making me do just that. I did come back afterwards when I was found on the road by the police. She was turning me and my dad against each other and got us literally yelling at each other. But we resolved this, and after some reflection, we both realized that for all of the major problems we have had happen, Susan was the instigator. My dad promised that she'd be gone soon, and wouldn't you know it, Dad found out she was actually cheating on him. He walked in on her and her ex when he went to her place to break up. It made his choice a lot easier. Susan was gone. We finally had our lives back, or so we thought. One day I came home from school and went into our house to find that it was completely trashed. I was shocked and confused and didn't know what was going on. My dog was acting normal and happy to see me, but everything was wrecked. I looked around and saw my Xbox 360 and Wii were stolen, along with most of my games. My dad's room was also in tatters, so I decided to call my dad to ask what was going on. A family friend actually showed up during this and looked around too. My dad rushed home and was absolutely furious when he went inside. Our friend left and Dad checked around and noticed that only his pills were stolen from his room. We knew instantly that it was Susan. Our dog was acting normal because he knew Susan and was used to her. That's how she didn't get mauled by our dog and was able to rob us. Instantly, my dad began to figure out what to do. I suggested that we call the police, but my dad refused. He called dibs. Being ex-military, even with a bad leg, made him a dangerous man to screw over. He found out that her ex, a Russian dude that's a wannabe gangster, helped rob us. My dad acted as swiftly as possible, and to be honest, I was scared. I thought he'd literally kill the both of them. It took 4 days for my dad to find out where they were staying. They moved in together at his house. My dad told me to stay home and drove over there at night with a baseball bat and his favorite pocket knife. Around midnight, he came back and I saw stuff in the back of our car. He told me that my consoles were sold away and he couldn't have gotten them back. I asked what happened and he sat me down. He went down and found that both of them were there that night and he honked his horn real loud and they came out. Susan didn't recognize the car in time and her ex, let's call him Tim, got scared to death as my dad got out, bat in hand. Now, this dude was supposed to be a badass gangster that would beat anyone down, and my dad only just recovered enough to not need crutches anymore. So in favor of odds, you'd expect Timmy to be itching to fight, knowing he'd win, but he caved in. My dad had a reputation of being the guy who'll beat down anyone who screws with our family. He has beaten a few people around town that has hurt our friends or family. Tim apparently got on his knees and begged for his life, and that he'd do anything. And my dad, being the saint he is, told him to strip and give him all his clothes. Tim couldn't tear them off fast enough. Susan was about to go into the house, presumably to call the police, when my dad told her not to move or he'd beat Tim to death. He grabbed the clothes and told them to never come near our house again, or else. He also assured them that he'd be back. I was shocked, but glad that my dad didn't kill anyone. He told me that I wasn't going to school tomorrow because I was coming with him to Susan's house. So the next day at noon, we show up and Tim immediately took him to his bedroom. Dad told me to get the big cardboard box he loaded up yesterday. We went in and told Susan that he was taking their DVD collection. He went over and told me to take them all, which I did, albeit reluctantly. I was a bit uncomfortable with the situation, but I was in awe of how badass my dad was being. He yelled for Tim, and that dude ran right in like a dog and sat down on the couch. My dad told him he had a week to get out of our town. If he didn't, he'd have a bad time. Tim agreed profusely, and my dad and me walked out. But before we left, my dad stopped and turned to Tim and told him to strip again and give him his clothes. I watched slack-jawed as Tim hurriedly pulled his clothes off and gave them to my dad. We eventually went home. They never called the cops. Too afraid, I guess, of the authorities or my dad. I don't know which, but we haven't heard from them since. Good riddance. Thank you for reading my first post on here. Wow, sounds like your dad is a badass, and sounds like Susan's no good junkie. Anyway, thank you for sharing it. I'm so sorry you lost your consoles, because there's no way you're gonna get that save data back. However, if you had a PlayStation 3 with PlayStation Plus, then your save data could have been backed up to the cloud, and you wouldn't have this issue, but you had to get an Xbox, but whatever. This story's called Cheat on My Friend and Spend All Her Money? Get Deported. I'm not too familiar with writing Reddit stories, so bear with me. I still can't believe this actually happened. It isn't some plot to a crappy SVU episode. Obligatory. This isn't my story, it's my friend's, but I watched the whole thing go down. So my friend, let's call her Coco, was really popular in high school. The type of girl that everyone wanted to be friends with and nobody wanted to cross. Coco was known to be promiscuous, but by senior year, she seemed to have finally settled down and was in a stable relationship with a boy. Let's call him Edgar. Edgar immigrated from Ecuador as a child, but was completely Americanized, and I don't even think he spoke Spanish that well from what I can remember. He was the type of kid that was seen as kind of a bum to most at the school. He was nearing 20 and barely showed up to class sometimes, only to smoke behind the school and hang out with friends. I guess he was on some sort of program to get his diploma before he legally couldn't continue showing up. Regardless of this, he made my friend happy, so even if I didn't think he was Prince Charming, I tolerated him. She worked every day after school at the local grocery store, and with her hard-earned money, she spoiled the hell out of him. A new Xbox, shoes, taking him out to eat, the whole 9 yards. She kissed the ground he walked on. And I was of course skeptical, but again, she was happy and it wasn't my business. Things seemed cool for a while, but when crap hit the fan, it hit with ferocity. 5 months into their relationship, he cheated on her. Not only did he cheat on her, but the girl he cheated with was freshly 14 years old and a freshman at the same high school. Keep in mind, he's 19 and probably shouldn't even still be at the school. This 14-year-old girl wasn't exactly innocent, as she'd had a reputation for a while for sleeping around with older men and looked around 17 to 18. Not to take away from the gravity of the situation, but to point out she was a very willing participant. I just feel it's needed context. News broke because this girl was bragging to all of her friends about sleeping with Edgar, and I guess one of the friends told Coco. I was almost 100% sure that Coco was going to fight this girl. She, being 17 at the time, wouldn't have gotten into the trouble she would have being an adult. To my shock, however, that's not what she did. Coco was obviously devastated. The man she's adored for almost half a year, her first real boyfriend, and the thousands she spent trying to make him happy definitely tore her to pieces inside. Instead of fighting the 14-year-old and trying to socially execute her, she played it smart. Here's where the nuclear revenge came in. This 14-year-old knew Edgar was with Coco and obviously feared Coco and the social power she had at the school. It was clear that she was scared to death of even showing her face once the news broke out, expecting to have to fight Coco or having to attempt to save her social life. What went down, however, was nothing like that. Coco messaged the girl on Instagram saying pretty much this: "Hey, I know what happened between you and Edgar, and I just want you to know I'm really sorry he took advantage of you like that. I think we should meet up and talk about it. I know it's not your fault." Coco didn't really believe this girl was preyed upon, and I'm sure she was even pissed at her. But it was important to her master plan that this girl took up the victim role. They end up meeting, and Coco pretty much showers the girl in affirmation that she's a victim. Edgar is the evil Baphomet child of Satan, and that if she went to the police that Coco and our whole friend group would stand beside her and care for her. Long story short, the decision between social suicide and a fast pass to the popular group wasn't too hard for this girl to make, and she ended up going to her guidance counselor the same day. The guidance counselor listened to what happened and promptly calls the police, who pull Edgar out of class and have him handcuffed outside in a public spectacle. When the ugly truth comes to light, it's worse than anyone could have imagined. Not only did Edgar and this 14-year-old get it on, they did it in the school bathroom. His mugshot was plastered on the news and everyone was talking about it. After multiple hours of Coco gaslighting this girl and telling her all the right things to say to the police, he was charged. He ended up getting charged with statutory violation of a horrible degree on top of another charge because it was on school grounds. He got a $50,000 bail, which he wasn't able to pay, and better yet, they were deporting him to Ecuador, the place where he had no remaining family, barely spoke the language, and that's only after he served his 5-year sentence in the United States. Throughout the entire trial, Coco pretty much coached the 14-year-old, telling her to say she was scared and felt pressured to do it when in reality, it was all on her own accord and nothing new to her. She complied with everything Coco said in order to save her social reputation. She even continued to brag about her sexual endeavors to us, but as long as it wasn't Edgar, we were happy to entertain it. We were young and dumb and living life like we were in an early 2000s teen movie. Looking back, I can can tell the girl definitely had some issues with male attention. Regardless, the rest of our social year, Coco let the girl tag along with us and treated her really well, even bringing her to senior prom in a loophole for the LGBT students. 3 years later, the girl is seemingly doing great. I see her on social media from time to time, and she's enrolled in college for the fall semester. Coco has a new boyfriend she's been living with for over a year now, and Edgar is still in prison awaiting his deportation. Looking back, I realized how messed up the whole situation was. The 14-year-old definitely had some problems in her life, and Coco was definitely manipulative. Sometimes I even feel bad for Edgar, but at the end of the day, she was still 14, so even if she was totally down with it, it's still illegal. I don't think either side was exactly doing the right thing. It's not like Coco actually cared about the 14-year-old like she pretended she did. At least the girl had a nice time for the rest of high school. Coco just wanted to scorn Edgar, and scorn him she did. Wow. I don't have much to say. Edgar definitely did a bad thing there. But golly, this whole thing was just freaking a crap show, man. Alright, here's a little post from r/NuclearRevenge to end things off because, well, NuclearRevenge only has super long stories. Who's stupid now? I thought that this was petty revenge, but this post got removed from there, so I'm trying it here. I'm still a Reddit newbie. A fair few years ago now, I was in an abusive relationship. I won't go into the gory details of that relationship. There are unfortunately plenty. Just the tiny fraction that is important to the story. He would constantly try to act as if I was stupid. No one should try to talk down to you or make you feel that way. But I guess it's important to note at the time, I was getting straight A's, so looking back on it now, it's laughable and doesn't bother me. At the time, I was deciding where to apply to university and had my heart set on an extremely high-ranking university. I'm not gonna name it because I don't want him to know this is me on the off chance that he reads this post, but it ranks in the top 1% worldwide. He told me that I shouldn't bother applying because I was too stupid to get in, and they'd laugh at my application. Anyone who's been in a similar situation knows how badly people like this try to weasel their way into your head to control you, and it nearly worked. I nearly didn't apply. I finally wrestled with the situation and I won, ignored him, and sent off my application. A little while before results day, I managed to get out of that relationship. As I was deleting him off of everything, I decided to keep him added on Snapchat as the idea for my petty revenge popped into my head. I didn't post anything on there, and neither did he. And this was years before Snap Maps, so there was no harm in keeping him added for a little longer. Results day rolled around, and I got into my dream university. I got myself dolled up and went to celebrate with my friends, posting a picture on my Snapchat story with a huge smile and my news. He checked it within the first few minutes, then I deleted him from there too. Sometimes living a better life is the best revenge, and sometimes hate is the best motivator. That's a really cool story. And I agree, sometimes the best revenge is just going on with your life and seeing how irrelevant they are to you. And that's how you cut them deep. Someone who likes to have that much control, they don't like being irrelevant.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.